Sketching is the most important phase of drawing. It's the phase where you figure out what you want to draw and how you want to draw it, so it can also be the most intimidating phase. You're faced with a blank page, and you start to feel the pressure of getting your ideas and drawings right. You start to worry about the details and focus on the end result that you have so perfectly defined in your head, and you can start to psych yourself out of drawing altogether out of fear of not doing it right or not doing your idea justice. However, there is no right way to sketch. There are many different types, phases, and methods of sketching, so try not to box yourself in on the idea of correctly drawing. Drawing is a creative outlet that you should have fun with, so go get those ideas out of your head and into the real world using whatever method works best for you. To start out, I want to go over two approaches to drawing: drawing from memory and drawing using a reference. Drawing from your memory can be a quick and fun way to get your ideas down on paper, and is a good way to warm up before working on more serious and detailed pieces. The downside of drawing from memory is that it's sometimes not the most accurate method of drawing, as you're working from your mentally stored interpretation of whatever it is you're drawing. So if you want to draw a hand from memory, you may draw something that accurately represents a hand, but it might not be the most anatomically correct. Drawing from reference helps you learn how to draw more accurately, as it gives you a better idea of how something actually looks and works, like the draping of fabric or hand gestures. Using references is incredibly important to help you improve as an artist, as you need to have a clear idea of how something works, like anatomy, before you can simplify details and recreate it in your own style. It also helps to give you ideas on how to design different aspects of your drawing, like detailed clothing or poses. Every great artist uses references, and it's not cheating. If you want to improve, take the time to actually research what you want to draw. The next area I'm going to focus on is different methods of drawing: structure-based drawing, contour drawing, and gesture drawing. Structure drawing is about working out the underlying structure of a drawing, such as the anatomy of a person or the perspective of a landscape. So, if you're drawing a person, you may sketch out a doll-like figure to work out basic anatomy and how you want to pose your character. You can also get more basic and use a detailed stick figure to quickly work out posing. This method helps with recreating more accurate anatomy, though it can also result in stiff poses. The best way to combat this is to use curving lines and base your sketch around a line of action, which follows the curve of the spine and the overall movement of the subject. The famous artist Andrew Loomis uses a more detailed form of a stick figure called mannequin frame, which combines both the doll and stick figure method. Contour drawing focuses on the outline and overall shape of a subject. You focus less on being anatomically correct or using accurate perspective, as it's more about capturing the feeling and essence of a subject. This type of drawing can be messy, but that's part of the fun of it. Don't think, just draw. The looseness of it helps the subject feel more alive and dynamic, and not so stiff or rigid. A lot of starting artists tend to default to this method without being aware of it, as they lack the knowledge of anatomy and underlying structure to create more accurate drawings. To use contour drawing effectively, you need to at least have some idea of the structure underneath it, or else this method can end up being a weakness or a crutch, so be aware of that when trying it out. The next thing I want to go over is the line of action. Think of the line of action as an imaginary line running down a person's spine. It's a curving line that follows the flow of movement, or the angle at which a person is bending and twisting. Once you've figured out the main line of action, you can look over the figure and decide if there are any other secondary lines of action that you would like to highlight. These lines can follow arms and legs that break off of the main action line, or along the hips and chest to highlight whether they're angled up or down. Using a line of action gives your character's pose more force and attitude, which also helps to make your character's poses more dynamic and visually interesting to the viewer. Gesture drawing is about laying out the line of action, form, and pose of a subject, and combines both structure drawing and contour. You use simplified shapes and line of actions to form a base for your pose, and use contour drawing to add simplified anatomy. Gesture drawing is supposed to be quick. You don't want to aim for anatomical accuracy. You want to capture the feeling and shape of a pose. Highlight the angles and curves, and don't get caught up in adding details. Practicing gesture drawing is one of the most effective ways of improving your drawing ability, as it helps improve both your speed and accuracy. It's also a great way to warm up before working on more intensive and detailed projects, since it's a simple way to wake up your creative brain and focus your mind. Now that you know some basic techniques with drawing, we can start using them together to create art. To demonstrate, I've chosen to draw the character Toru Honda from Fruits Basket. I loved that anime as a teenager, and I'm excited about the new series coming out. I found references of both her old and new design, though I'll mostly use the new design for inspiration while I draw. Like with gesture drawing, I start out with a line of action and use simple shapes to define the pose and basic anatomy of my figure. This is just a rough sketch, so don't worry about the details. We're just creating the base for now. Once the main base for the body is done, I place and define the accessories like clothing and hair with rough shapes. Once I'm satisfied with how that's turned out, I lower the opacity of the rough sketch and create a new layer where I'll draw a refined sketch and use the rough version as a template. The refined sketch is basically a more detailed and cleaner version of your sketch. Your lines are more confident and clear, but you don't necessarily need to worry about making them perfectly smooth. This is still just a sketch, not a finished illustration. One thing that I accidentally did that you should not do is merge your rough sketch and your clean sketch. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to undo far enough to unmerge them, so I had to spend some time erasing the rough lines from my drawing. Once you're happy with your lines, you can move on to coloring if you want. I won't go into the details about how to color a digital image, but for this sketch, I will list the steps I took. First, I select the area around the sketch, invert it, and fill it with a color. Then I create a clipping layer on top of that where I add my base colors. Once I'm done filling in the base colors, I add some simple shading on the hair using a large, soft, dark brown brush. Then I use a light brown color to add highlights to the hair. To finish the shading, I use a warm purple brush and then change the layer mode to multiply so the shading blends into my base colors. A few more final touches and cleanups later, and the drawing is complete. There are many different ways of sketching that you can use to create your drawings. Don't be afraid to experiment and try new methods. Creating is supposed to be fun and inspiring, and if you feel pressure about drawing or are stuck in an art block, try something new and break out of your comfort zone. Just relax, have fun, and start creating.